You're listening to a podcast appearing on the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network.
Wouldn't it be cool if advertising for your food or barbecue-related company could last forever? It can with perpetual advertising. Here's how it works. Unlike TV or radio ads where every instance the ads are broadcast are only played once and lost forever, perpetual advertising, on the other hand, can have repeat exposure and replayability for weeks, months, and even years after they're inserted in a weekly Firecast podcast. So, even if a podcast is a few months or even a few years old, your ads will still be impactful to repeat listeners as well as new listeners who download to listen to the show. This gives your advertising dollar the most bang for the buck. You can find out more about perpetual advertising sponsorship opportunities by filling out the simple web form at twoguystalking.com/Firecast. That's the numeral 2, guystalking.com/Firecast. This is the weekly Firecast, episode 30, interview with video reviewer Brad Bishop.
Strap yourselves in. It's time for the weekly Firecast. This is the podcast for all foodies, those who love food that is cooked over a fire or feels like fire in your mouth. If you love spice, smoke, sauce, and all things savory, this is the show for you. And now, here's your host, chili head and barbecuer, Scott Roberts.
And welcome to all foodies, chili heads, and barbecuers everywhere. Again, I am Scott Roberts. I am a blogger over at scottrobertsweb.com. I am a columnist for Chili Pepper Magazine. And I am the podcast host for the next, about an hour or so. That's about how long these podcasts usually end up turning out. We have another great show in store for you today. For our main event, I'm going to interview video reviewer Brad Bishop. So if you're over at YouTube and you watch a lot of the chili pepper eating videos and the hot sauce reviews, I'm sure you're familiar with him. And for the Ken's Fiery World segment, my friend and chili head blogger and reviewer Ken Alexander joins me and we talk a little bit about barbecue and grilling. And for the review topic this week is Blair's Death Rain Jolokia pepper chips. And also give a bit of short but sweet food info advice for my foodie tip of the week. So all those segments will start here in just a couple minutes. Before I get to that, let me just remind everybody that I want to hear from you. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions about the show, I want to hear what you have to say. And there's a super simple way of doing that. Simply go to the website twoguystalking.com/Firecast. Yes, that's a numeral 2, guystalking.com/Firecast. Look for the simple contact form on the left-hand side of the page. Fill it out, and let me know what's on your mind. You're always welcome to praise the show, and, who doesn't love a few praises every now and then? Or if there's any constructive criticism, or feedback, or suggestions for guests or topics, I want to hear from you. And also, if you're a big fan of the show, please spread the word. It's word-of-mouth advertising that's really helped make this podcast grow. So if you have any friends or relatives who are foodies, who are chili heads, if you have that uncle or brother-in-law who just loves hot sauce on everything, who loves the hottest foods and the hottest sauces in the world, or if you know of someone who's a backyard barbecuing fanatic, please let them know about this podcast. And I also urge everyone to give this podcast, the Weekly Firecast, a rating and review in iTunes. So all you have to do is go to any of the iTunes subscription links, either on my blog, scottrobertsweb.com. You can just, the shortcut, you can just go to weeklyfirecast.com, or the aforementioned twoguystalking.com/Firecast. Click on the iTunes subscription feed, and right now there's a big blue button that says View in iTunes. That will actually open up iTunes to the Weekly Firecast page. There you can give a star rating, write a short little review, and that will actually help the Weekly Firecast appear higher in the iTunes ranking for food podcast. So any help you could provide, it's much appreciated. So enough of me gabbing, let's go ahead and get to the weekly segments.
And now, the foodie tip of the week.
My foodie tip of the week this time is another one for barbecuers and grillers. If you have barbecue sauces, condiments, finishing sauces. Make sure they only get applied during the last stages of the cook or even after the cook. Now, a lot of these sauces, especially your general barbecue sauces, will contain lots of sugars. And these sugars, if left too long on the grill, will tend to burn more. Now, there is a type of sugar that has a higher burn temperature called turbinado sugar. Now, those you could probably let them cook for a little while longer, but as a general rule of thumb, only use your barbecue and grilling sauces at the very end. And not only that, but use them sparingly.
And now, the review of the week.
My review topic this week is Blair's Death Rain Jolokia Cauldron Cooked Potato Chips. Now, I'm a big fan of spicy snacks, whether it spans the gamut from things that are sweet and tasty to the things that are salty and crunchy. Now, I'm a fan of a few of the chips that Blair's Sauces and Snacks has put out in the past. Blair's does not skimp on flavor. It's a good, hearty, well-cut, crunchy potato chip. And unlike a lot of the popular brands of nationally available chips, say your Pringles and such, those kind of chips, very often when it comes to the spicy versions or the extreme versions, often have very little flavor and very little to no heat. Blair's is the opposite. Again, he doesn't skip on this, and with these Jolokia pepper chips, it's no exception. Now, these come in a 3-ounce bag, so it's a pretty good size bag for a single serving. I do have to complain that the packaging is kind of that rubbery coated type foil pouch, really hard to get open. But that's just a minor gripe. Let's go ahead and get to the chip itself. As far as the look and cut of the potato chip, I like it a lot. Very crunchy, and they range in size from the smaller chips to the nice, good size ones that I love. And yes, the look of these, they are a nice dark orangish red. So you know that you're going to get heaping helpings of lots of flavor and lots of heat. Now, when it comes to the heat, these are definitely a good chili head snack. If you're not a chili head, if you don't like a lot of heat, stay away from these. Now, these aren't exactly chips that you would give someone for a challenge. A chili head could easily plow through an entire bag of these with very little difficulty. Now, it's not like a hardcore chili head will eat one chip. They would be running for a glass of milk. It's not like a severe hot sauce wing contest. But these do have a lot of residual heat. So I'd say if you're a mild-mouth spicy snack fan, you might get through maybe a half a bag of these before they would be too much for you when it comes to heat. More importantly, though, is the flavor of these. And they're not bad. They're a very potent, peppery-tasting blend with a lot of the salt, a little bit of a garlic, and the flavor profile itself. And again, this doesn't promise to be any type of a barbecue flavor or a cheese flavored. I would prefer that the heat of the Jolokia pepper be mixed with something like that. Because not only am I looking for a little bit of spiciness, I'm looking for a great tasting chip. These only get up to maybe the good tasting range, about a 3 out of 5 on a scale of taste. Now, Blair would mix these with a good cheese flavor or a good barbecue flavor. It could really bring it up in my rating. So unfortunately, these are not a must-buy, but they're still pretty good. So if you're able to get a bag of these, I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's still a good, hearty, very spicy snack. And again, my overall rating for these would be a 3 out of 5. And if you're interested in getting this product, simply go to extremefood.com. That's Blair's Sauces and Snacks official website. And they sell these in bunches like 6-packs and 24-packs. So if you want to order these online or any of the other Blair's Death Rain potato chips, you kind of have to go that route and order the multiple bags. If you're lucky enough to find one in a specialty hot sauce shop, go ahead and try a bag. I would say that they are worth it.
And now, Ken's Fiery World.
And once again, I am talking to Louisiana-based chili head reviewer and blogger Ken Alexander. How's everything going in your world tonight?
Oh, great, Scott. It's springtime here in South Louisiana. How about you up in sunny St. Louis?
Oh, it's beautiful. Gorgeous weekend. Grilled, barbecued a couple times. It was just a fantastic weekend. Hung out with the kids, hung out with the girlfriend. So big smiles from me.
Very nice. So we spent a lot of time. It was, like I said, it was gorgeous. Gorgeous weather here as well, and spent a lot of time outside. And we just bought a new grill, barbecue grill. Bought a Weber Genesis we debated between the whole charcoal versus gas, and my wife barbecues a lot for us where she'll have stuff on the grill when I get home from work. So, for that convenience, we opted for gas. And I kind of thought on that line, since it's, the weather's warming up around the country, and to maybe we could chat a little bit about, barbecue and just kind of barbecue season and different styles and how the two worlds of chili heads and is there a term for barbecue heads? Is there a Q world, a Q head out there, or what's that term?
The nomenclature, I'm not sure. Maybe just Qers, barbecuers. I don't know.
I've never heard anyway. So I thought that might be timely to do, and just maybe some of your listeners you may not be familiar with like the two major barbecue camps that's out there. I know we've got there's the Memphis and May camp, which is like, I know, the pork base, kind of a sweet barbecue, more with sauces. And then, from your end of the world is more the Kansas City, base. Is that right? Do I get that right, Scott? I'm not as familiar with Kansas City. It's more of a dry barbecue rub base than it is with sauces or bastings, right?
No, Kansas City, the Kansas City style barbecue is more the thicker, richer, more sweeter, molasses-based barbecue sauces. I consider Memphis style to be the dry rub capital of America.
Really?
When you get all the seasonings and spices. Mm-hmm. All integrated in there. Yeah, anytime I go to Memphis, I mean, that's one thing I look for. I can go to Corky's or Charlie Virgo's Rendezvous. I mean, I go for the dry rub ribs. That's what I love down there.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to have a sauce.
True. But once upon a time in my life, I did a stint as a Memphis and May barbecue judge. It seems like, and I would judge ribs and pork shoulder. And the pork shoulder would almost always be dry. And then the ribs would almost always be wet. Every time I would judge them, it would be rare for me not to judge ribs that didn't, have a sauce incorporated with at least their show rib. At some point. And so that's where I kind of, I guess, got the impression that the Kansas City, which also incorporates beef, where the Memphis and May does not, it's Memphis and May is purely pork, is pork, that was the difference. But,
I think there is the competition side of things, mm-hmm. where just about everything is sauced. And that's just about any kind of governing barbecue organization. You have the Southern Barbecue Network, Florida Barbecue Association, KCBS, Kansas City Barbecue Society. There are a number of governing barbecue associations that hold, competitions every week all throughout the year. Mm-hmm. I don't know of any specific one that really where dry rubbed stuff is turned in a contest to be judged. I think they're pretty much all sauced. But what I was referring to is just how whenever you go to a restaurant,
right,
and maybe just tradition how people cook things,
yeah.
It's probably a little bit more dry rubbed down in the Memphis area, whereas Kansas City you get the sweet molasses, really rich sauce.
Kind of the Kansas City masterpiece sauce everybody thinks of when they think of Kansas City. Yeah.
Yeah.
That darker, richer feel. How do you think, and this is a question that, I've been in my few years with, in the chili head world, you see those two worlds kind of intertwine an awful lot. On the blog sites and on Facebook and on those pages, you seem to get a lot of overlap between, the hot sauce community and the barbecue community. So, in your history, I'm curious to get your perspective on that. Where do you think those two collided, and how do you think that happened the way it did?
Personally, from a personal history, I don't think that one had led to the other. Just my taste as a chili had developed differently than that of a barbecue or griller.
Mm-hmm.
But where I see they interconnect, obviously, is the whole realm of sauces. I mean, you have your hot sauces and you have your barbecue sauces.
Right.
And you can kind of branch out and go to a larger likeness, how the similarity between the two. You also have your seasonings. And And you can start thinking of condiments and the type of spiciness. And a lot of people in the barbecue world like a nice spicy sauce. They love different flavor profiles. So I think the hardcore hot sauce fans will tend to love those kind of different flavor profiles. They could be sweet, smoky, spicy, and you get a lot of the similarities in a barbecue sauce.
I think that's true. I think that's very, very true, especially, in the dry seasonings in the rub. I'm a big fan of along with hot sauce, of dry seasonings, period. I love, like Tim Bader's volcanic peppers. I must have 10 of his products on my shelf that I will combine with things when I want to add heat. And I use his products with barbecue sauces, where I don't want to really alter the flavor profile of the sauce itself. And so I've tried adding hot sauces to them occasionally, and sometimes that works out, and sometimes it really hasn't worked out for me. But putting in, dry powders, dry, seasoning mixes and dry rubs along with it seems, if I want to, kind of change the heat profiles or change the flavor profiles a little bit, so just putting those spice blends in, does a lot better job for me.
I do too. And just about anything I barbecue or grill, and just to kind of, stem off any controversy, or if anybody is going to argue about things, when I refer to grilling, it's high heat, fast cooking, burgers, hot dogs, steaks, and things like that. Mm-hmm. And barbecuing is low heat, don't over wood smoke, where you cook your larger pieces of meat, ribs, briskets, pork shoulders, things like that. Anyway, back to my point.
Right.
Whenever I cook, barbecue or grill, I will always season. I will always put some type of dry seasoning or rub on the meat itself. Sauce is always optional. Mm-hmm. I mean, I will sauce it towards the end of the cook or after the cook most of the time.
Right. No. I do this. Well, and anybody that does any grilling or barbecuing, that if I learned this early on in my life when I thought you had to keep things moist. And so I would put the sauce on as soon as I started to grill, especially chicken. And then all of a sudden you've got this caramelized coating of carbon from the sauce that just fries onto the meat and cooks it down. So I learned, that trick the hard way, and early on with that. Anybody having to tell me, I wish they kind of would have on the front end, or I'd have known, I wouldn't have burnt up so much chicken, to wait and sauce things at the very end. But yeah, I too, I always, or I marinate before, but I always dry rub and season prior to cooking, whether it's grilling or barbecuing or whatever, and then sauce at the end, or even just leave it on the side for afterwards and let people sauce their own.
Of course, marinating and even brining are two totally different things.
Right.
I will marinate things a lot when I just want that little bit of extra flavor added to the outside layer of meat. Mm-hmm. I don't brine that often. I probably occasionally do that to things like chicken pieces.
Right. And I've only brined a handful of times myself, that, and that's not something that I ever really did a whole lot of. I've reviewed a couple of brines, and I played with it when I was prepping for the reviews, and it was nice. But yeah, usually, I'll marinate a steak or I'll marinate chicken where I get that, for a few hours or even overnight. But yeah, and I know some people swear by the brining process, that it tenderizes the meat better and that it does other things, but that's not something that's been kind of in my world as a routine use ever, really.
Now, what about injecting meat? Do you ever do that?
I haven't, with turkeys and chicken. I can't say I have on occasion, never a whole lot. My, family's not a big one for injected turkeys. I've been around in South Louisiana. Well, I think it's probably nationwide now. Fried turkey's a big thing. And down here, people love to inject the turkeys with Cajun seasonings. And so I've been to a lot of turkey fries, if you can call them that, and injected a whole lot of them, but I really don't do that personally a whole lot.
Now, what about, so whenever you put a sauce on, it's pretty much towards the end of a cook, I assume?
Yeah, it just depends. Like, we do a lot of pork tenderloin at my house. It's a good, I consider for kind of that red meat genre, the healthiest of it. And so, and and I like it. It's a lean meat. And I'll sauce the last 10 minutes on a piece of pork tenderloin. If I'm doing chicken, I guess it's almost always, it's the last 10 to 15 minutes of a grill or a barbecue, or grill that I'll put something on. But if I'm doing like a fruit glaze, anything that's real sweet and heavy, it's always the last like 10 minutes. All I want to do is kind of warm it up and let it sit on the meat, set to the meat itself. I'm not really trying to do anything else with it.
And I do that as well. How often do you cook things like ribs and pork shoulder and brisket? I mean, the really large pieces of meat. Pork tenderloin probably fits in that category too.
Yeah, tenderloins I do pretty often. Ribs, in all honesty, I have a tendency to overcook my ribs pretty easily. I'm not, I keep trying, and now that we have a new grill, that's got a really nice even box to where, and it's got a neat way to do some indirect heat. I'm going to do some more this summer, but I've kind of gotten away from it some just because I trash the meat so much, in all honesty. And I've never done a brisket. I have helped cook a lot of briskets. My uncle and my dad and others would do a lot of brisket, and I've got friends that do it. And so I've been around it. I've helped cook couchon de laits, which down here, that's the whole hog, cooks, which take 12 to 14 hours if you do it right, over open coals. So I've done some of that, but I have never smoked a brisket ever. So that's a challenge for me for this year now that I've got new equipment.
For me, it's the opposite. I've done several briskets, but I've never done the whole hog route. Was going to ask you, what are your thoughts about foiling the meat whenever you cook it low and slow, keeping it moist throughout the cook? I mean, what are your thoughts on all of that?
I do. And probably the only time that I ever got ribs to come out halfway decent at all, I foiled them. Usually I would just try to do it low and slow over on the side, and I wouldn't foil. The pork, the tenderloins, I'll sear it up, and let it cook for a while. Then I've done it, and then I foiled it for the last half to really seal it in. So I've played with it a little bit, and I've had pretty good success with that. That's worked pretty well for me. And then uncover it to glaze it at the end. So when it's a bigger tenderloin, when you're doing a whole tenderloin at a time. But, other than that, I can't say I've ever foiled chicken. I know people who say, who do foil a lot, and it seems they say that their meat comes out a lot moister. I don't know. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, pretty much so. Once the meat is properly smoked and cooked and all that, yeah. When it comes to ribs, I will put in things like honey and squeeze butter and brown sugar as well, just to kind of add a little sweetness to the outside. I guess maybe kind of an impromptu sauce, if you will.
Yeah, it sounds like you're making your own sauce, guy.
But to me, it's another layer of flavor that's
right.
That's kind of like a moistener, a fattener, if that's the right term, with the butter.
Right.
I mean, you get the sweetness from the brown sugar and the honey, and that kind of sits on top of probably the more savory rub I put on there. And then after that, it just really depends on the meat, depends on my mood. I might put a sauce on it afterwards. I might not.
Right. Man, this is making me hungry, Scott.
I'll just talk about food.
Yeah, it really is. But, that's one thing I'm just really excited. I know that, we could spend a whole nother segment or two or four, talking about. I know I've had conversations with a bunch of different folks on what, charcoal versus gas, and the purists that like the charcoal, and ones that say, well, if you get the wood chips right and you put them on the grill right, you can do just as good a job with a gas grill as you can with a charcoal grill. And I know you've got very strong opinions on both sides of that. So I'm really hoping this new gas grill I got is going to be able to to do the thing for me where I can kind of get some indirect heat going and some good smoke and play with it. So that's going to be, I'm going to have a summer full of adventure this year.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
obviously, yeah, we could talk about this for hours, to talk about flavor profiles of barbecue sauces. It may be something for other weeks, and talk about, like you said, charcoal versus gas, on and on and on. There are many different topics.
Right. And I guess the closing thought is, just for people, it's barbecuing, grilling, and that whole experience is as much social as it is about the food. And so just encourage people that it's a great way for conversation. It's a great way to talk about things that they like, or just shoot the breeze about their day, and just, if they don't have a grill, go get one. And if they got one, as the weather's warming up, to fire it up as often as they can. It's a great, healthy way to eat. It's one of my favorite ways to prepare food, whether that be meat or grilled veggies or corn on the cob or whatever it happens to be.
Oh, absolutely. And you're right about it. It's just a way of getting people together. I'm trying to think of the phrase from K. John. He said something like, the fiery foods are the catharsis, and I'm sure he didn't use that word, of just getting people together to laugh, to tell stories, and share camaraderie. And it's the same way with barbecuing and sitting around the grill or smoker and just having a good time.
Yeah, I think so. And that's part of the draw for me and the whole, our whole community, the Chili Head community, is that camaraderie and the chance when you're able to get together with folks. Every time you get to a show, it's kind of like a mini reunion, and you'd like for people to experience that same feeling with you. And so I hope everybody has that chance. And with that, that's, like I said, we could go on and wax philosophic about barbecue for hours and on end, a lot more than probably listeners want to hear in this one segment. So any other closing thought from you on the queue tonight?
Not without going into it for hours.
That's exactly.
So we will close it, end it there.
It sounds great, Scott. As always, it's a joy to be on and giving your listeners something hopefully they're enjoying, and always to remind them that, ladies and gentlemen, it is a fiery world. So anyway, with that, Scott, have a great week, and I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
Okay, thanks a lot, Ken. We'll be back after these messages, so stick around.
Do you consider yourself to be a chilihead and want to find some hot new gear to wear?
Oh, yeah!
Look no further than chiliheadtees.com. If you're a heat freak and love hot sauce, chili peppers, or anything dealing with fiery and spicy foods, this is the place to get t-shirts to show off your obsession. Chilihead Tees is dedicated to giving you the hottest t-shirts, mouse pads, mug, aprons, and more for the discriminating chilihead. Go to chiliheadtees.com. That's chiliheadstees.com.
Hi, it's Vic Porcelli. Don't miss our interview with Michael the Grinder Mizrachi in our most recent episode of Two Guys Talking Poker.com.
Blood, a dark passenger. The binding ties of clear plastic. They're not just hallmarks of the hit Showtime television program, Dexter. They're bullet points talked about each week on the Dexter podcast from Two Guys Talking. Don't miss out on killer dialogue that leaves you with a bloodlust for more. It's the Two Guys Talking Dexter podcast for Dexter fans. Find out more now at twoguystalking.com. That's the number 2guystalking.com.
Having a friendly, relatable voice can make all the difference in your marketing efforts. Let Scott Roberts' voiceover be that voice. I can give you the goods, whatever your need is, whether it be for commercials, podcasts, voicemail phone systems and on-hold messages, business presentations, websites, audiobooks, and more. If you require a personable, real, down-to-earth voiceover artist, then look no further. You can find out more at scottrobertsvoice.com.
The Two Guys Talking Nostalgia Engine is here, and we need your help. Two Guys Talking has begun stockpiling reviews of great, classic movies, and we want to know what you want us to review. Access twoguystalking.com now and tell us which classic movies on DVD and Blu-ray we should put into the Two Guys Talking Perspective Review crosshairs and help us fuel the internet's best repository for engaging, nostalgic feature film reviews. Access twoguystalking.com and click any one of the Nostalgia Engine pictures. Tell us which movies you want right now. action, horror, comedies, even the occasional rom-com. Access to GuysTalking.com. That's the number 2, GuysTalking.com. The Nostalgia Engine. Ride in nostalgic style while you listen to GuysTalking.com.
And we're back with more of the weekly Firecast.
And now, the Fire Talkers interview.
My interview subject this week is video reviewer Brad Bishop. And as I said in the intro to this podcast, if you're a fan of YouTube videos where people eat chili peppers, review hot sauces, then you probably run across one of his videos before, or you may already be a diehard subscriber. Now, Brad Bishop's YouTube channel is called the Bishop Brad Pepper TV. It's available at youtube.com/user/dbaptist, and that's spelled DBAPTIZT. But Brad does a number of characters. He's a big entertainer when it comes to doing his video reviews. So it's garnered him many fans, and yes, it's produced a few critics, and I have to admit I've kind of been a little critical, and not just Brad specifically, but just the way chili pepper videos, the direction that they've gone in the past few years. But Brad was gracious enough to come on the podcast, and he's a good guy, friendly, accommodating person, so I'm very pleased and happy to bring you Brad Bishop.
Good evening, Brad. How's everything going in your world?
Good evening, Scott. Good. Everything's going wonderful. How are you, brother?
I've been sick this winter. I've tried to get over this second flu. Hopefully I could speak a little bit tonight without it sounding like mush.
You got to eat a pepper.
Oh, you know what? I haven't eaten any whole peppers. I've only had hot sauce.
Yeah, you just got to eat a pepper, baby.
Yeah.
They'll take care of you.
Hopefully. Well, anyway, you are a video reviewer. You are an entertainer on YouTube. I mean, there's been a lot of activity on YouTube for the past couple of years when it comes to the chili pepper hot sauce world, and you've been one of the bigger names involved in all that. I remember it was the Bloggers Roundtable last year. We talked quite a bit, about video reviewers, written reviewers, what we liked, what we hated. So here in a few minutes, we'll get to topics like that. But what I want to find out first is, what is your background as a chili head?
My background as a chili head, I remember growing up, I'm originally from Norfolk, Virginia. And in Virginia, there were no really Mexican restaurants. The only Mexican restaurants there ever were was a Taco Bell and a restaurant called Chi-Chi's. And I remember those two places being the very first places of me ever, and this was as a child, being 10, 11, and that was when I had my first hot sauces. Mm-hmm. And I've always liked spicy stuff, but then when I was 13 years old, I moved to Texas, and I was introduced to the Tex-Mex cuisine, and it was just amazing. Out of all the restaurants, and Mexican food is one of my favorite foods in the world, I started trying all these wonderful sauces, and that's when I truly became a hot sauce connoisseur. I just fell in love with sauces, and that was the beginning. That was when it all started. And once I started going on YouTube, when YouTube now exists, and I was watching these reviews, and I was seeing them, I was like, okay, well, there are actually people that do hot sauce reviews. And I thought that was the most coolest thing, because I loved hot sauce. I was a musician for 15 years, a fry-in. I was always been an entertainer. And I was like, the spice world needs spiced up. There was just something that it just needed to be. I've always been a humorous person, so I just figured peppers, heat, hot sauce, humor, and just be able to just do my own thing. I always wanted my own show, and YouTube has just given me the opportunity to be an idiot personally and just release everything that I do in a professional life that I live all the time.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned, the spice world needing spice. The entertainment factor when it comes to eating extremely hot things is kind of always been there. You take someone like John Dilly of Defcon Sauces. I'm not sure if you've tried his wing sauces, phenomenal stuff. He has always gone for the extreme entertainment factor with his extracts at his booth.
Oh, wow.
And it's like every show I go to, it's always fun just to stick around his booth to see if people will try, just a little bit of his extract on the tongue, watch the burn, watch them in pain. And it's always funny.
Oh, yeah.
Or you could watch like a chicken wing eating contest.
Right.
People just killing themselves, trying to eat these things as fast as they can. Their just faces are red, eyes are watering, snots running from their nose. There's always been that entertainment factor. Did you see that type of thing? And I probably should add things like Neil Smith eating the extreme chili peppers, like 5 years ago too.
Scott, I have never personally been to any type of chili festival yet. And I can imagine everything that I completely miss out on when it comes to everything that you actually named. I think what I saw is people that were just making a video, maybe just picked up a sauce from somewhere, and they were just sitting there talking about the sauce and wondering and just talking and then talking. And that's the kind of thing that I think intrigued me to be like, okay, these needed humor, these needed fun, but I know that's already been done. It's already been here. Me being so new into doing what I do, I've never been able to experience anything from a festival and the fun and the entertainment part of it. You know what I mean? I never have. I've had a blast. I need to get to one. I'm missing out big time. I'm very institutionalized.
Well, a lot of these events, they're just a lot of fun to go to, not only for the entertainment aspect that I just mentioned, but the camaraderie. I mean, when you meet other chili heads, they're like brothers, they're like sisters that you never knew you had. And even some of the vendors, and just hanging out with them, doing things outside of the show, outside of the event, going to dinners with them. They're some of the most fun moments I've had in the past 5, 7, 8 years. I mean, they're a blast.
I can't wait to get to one. I'm going to love on everybody when I get there, because it'd be my first one. I'd be so excited to hang out with everybody and talk to them, have them in front of me personally. Be able to take pictures with you and Kay John and Ed Curry and all of us. Just, I just can't wait to one day get to them. Hopefully I can get to the Houston one this year.
Houston's a very good show. It's something I've been trying to get to probably the past 3 years, and for whatever reason I've been unable to go. But that's one of the fun events. And, of course, there's Zest Fest. There's the Weekend of Fire in Ohio. But there's so many you can go through. But I guess let's get back to videos. Now, doing your videos, did you find particular ones that you watched kind of entertaining but just really lacking something? Or is it just kind of your own thoughts? It's like, I want to do this exact same thing, but I want my personality to show through. And you might think of yourself as a wild person, a cut-up, a class clown type thing.
Yeah.
Was it more like that?
Yeah, well, you got the people that, the first person that ever turned me on, the first person I ever saw, his name was Naga Bob. Naga Bob ended up being Ted Barris's friend. From Naga Bob, I learned about Ted Barris, and I started learning about what a true hot sauce reviewer really was and how unique it could be. What I mean is these were the videos, like you got people like Neil Smith and Darth Naga and Ted Barris and Naga Bob, and all of them, they had their character. They had, I could never be Neil Smith. I could never be Darth Naga, and they had that unique character about them. And then there were the videos that you saw of just some kids randomly making some type of hot sauce video or something. And, I think a lot of that of what I picked up on is these guys have been doing it way longer. And Ted Barris is the one that introduced me to basically all of this. I think Ted Barris introduced it to the masses, because I didn't know who Darth Naga was or Neil Smith was until I started making videos, and Ted Barris taught me about who the legends were and who these people were that's been doing it forever. And they all were unique. They all were great. They all were good. I just knew that, yes, Scott, I was more the class clown, the Jerry Springer of the chili world. And then I really started realizing that kind of stuff started embarrassing a lot of people, especially close to me. And I think it was the time where I wore the pink bra and the cowboy hat. That's
I remember, yeah.
That video, I took it too far, believe it or not. Out of all the pepper spraying and things I did to myself, my wife got very, very embarrassed. And, you know, I do this for fun and entertainment. But the day my wife found and watched that video, I just noticed in her it embarrassed her. And I knew that at that point I was taking this stuff too far. And I think that was the kind of one that broke the camel's back for me on going further and further and extremer, because what I do should never affect my family. And when I did that video, it really did. And we're fine now. She just wanted to see Brad Bishop. She didn't want to see an idiot. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, yeah. You know, even though you're from Virginia, you know, you're in Texas, everybody does it bigger and badder in Texas, so I guess a little bit of that spirit had to come out.
Yeah, they got a lot of pride here.
Yeah. When it comes to video reviews and written reviews, what kind of advantages and disadvantages do you think each of the different types of reviews have?
Okay. I've been turned on. One of my favorite blog writers. I think one of the advantages is being definitely a good writer. You know, Bart Meyer is one of my favorite bloggers that I love to read from. I'm not really into the written reviews, only for the simple fact that I know there's two different. I think we're all wired differently. You're either going to be a writer or you're going to be a video guy. I think the benefit of is with live video, you can see the actual reactions with your eyes. And I think the visual aspect, being that people are visual, can add that ingredient to where if you are a blogger or you're a writer. Now, a writer, being a good writer, can make a great story. And I'm not much of a reader, so I'm just not much of one. So, but these ones that I see articles on, I'm not sure, really. They all have their own advantages and disadvantages. I guess it just depends on the person and what they're looking for, you know.
Well, what do you look for in a review? I know you kind of mentioned seeing people's reactions.
Yeah, everybody wants to see everyone get their butt kicked. I've noticed that. Other people want to see people in pain. People want to see the misery, but they also, because it's funny. Me just being more of a visual person, and I love to, when I go do any type of research on something, I go look for the videos. I'm just now graduating, I would suppose I can say, into starting now to read about them, and I'm starting to see the art in being a writer and being a blogger in the chili industry. It's a continuous growth. I guess that's with anything. And I just watch other people's progressions with it, and you know, I even hear writers saying that I'm still progressing with what I'm doing. My personal interests have always been more of the visual and watching the actual entertainment, pain, funny part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What about from the informational aspect of it, where people want to know
informational?
Yeah, what the sauce tastes like and what it's good on, and all those little details like that.
I think for breaking them down into the details, I think the people that write about them can capture that more than anything. You know, in a video, you start just basically seeing what the reactions are and if it's funny or if it's going to keep your attention. Whereas writing and reading about it, people can break all of that down, which they actually should in videos too. They both have their own purpose, I suppose. You know, I'm just now learning. I'm just now starting to read these. And Bart Meyer has kind of caught me on to starting to read blogs. I'm just not the right person to give you the true difference, although I feel like I should. I really, truly feel that they both have their own importance and their own differences.
Yeah. From my perspective as a viewer, you know, you watch a video and you do want that entertainment aspect. You just don't want somebody sitting there and just kind of monotone and just kind of drone on about something. You do want to be entertained because you're sitting there. You're going through it yourself. The person has to engage you somehow.
Right.
And you get that. But I also want the informational pieces from it, What does the sauce look like, taste like? What's the consistency? And I know you can kind of see that on video, but I want somebody who can sometimes put it through its paces, maybe through a few different meals. It's like, well, this sauce is good on Mexican, but is it good on Asian food?
Right.
That type of thing. And sometimes you really can't get that from one single, like a 9-minute video.
No. That's where I think the writers have the best advantage into doing and bringing out and explaining an actual product in all different types of forms. Is the writer can, I think that's more informational for people that do the writing than anything at all.
Well, kind of back to the weirdness and the showboatiness from it. I mean, you've done the videos with the weird characters. I don't even remember all the names of what you do. There's the wrestler guy. What's his name?
It's the wrestler. Scott, I had a great time in the 60s, man. I had a great time in the 60s. No, you have the Pepperlucha.
Pepperlucha, okay.
You have the Pepperlucha. You have the Pepper Preacher, the Texas Pepper Preacher. You have the Texas Pepper Police. You have Pepper Morrison, and he only comes out when you're mixing capsaicin with alcohol. And then you then you have the
That's the way to eat it, by the way. The kind of
exactly.
Capsaicin with alcohol. I'm sorry.
And then you have the Texas Cowboy, of course. So, absolutely. If you ask me, Scott, where they came from, I have not truly a clue, brother. They just happened, and they took a life of their own.
When you do a review, do you think beforehand, you think, I should do this character, I should be myself? How does it fit whatever you're doing on camera, whether it's tasting the sauce or eating the pepper?
I think the feel of the product. I base everything that I do off the feeling, and then everything else is improvised. Everything. I do everything on one take. You know, if it has something to do with Satan or evil or hell, that is the Texas Pepper Preacher all the way. Anything that has to do with that is the text. You just get that feeling of putting something that has hell on it inside your body. Well, okay, we're going to do the Preacher on that one. Mm-hmm. They all just have their own feeling. If I have a sauce that I think that, you know, if somebody was driving through the state of Texas, and I don't recommend the name of that sauce, like squid vomit. If somebody was transporting squid vomit across our Texas highways, I would imagine if a country backwoods Texas sheriff pulled someone over that was crossing squid vomit across this Texas. You see the feeling. Uh-huh. It's the names, it's the products, and how it truly makes me feel is what's going to dictate what character I use. It's just a natural progression from there. But they're all improvised, they're all one takes, and I just roll with it.
Now, do you think you doing those crazy characters have maybe cheapened the quality of the reviews?
If you were to put me beside a Ken Alexander, absolutely 100%. Ken, I love Ken. I love the way he breaks it down. I mean, he even talks about the palate, and Ken is one of my favorite reviewers. But yes, I think to a certain extent it does. Any video that I do make is to not create any type of offense. It's just we're in a while, we're hot sauce, we're chili heads, you know, we do crazy things. We eat hot sauce, and that's why I think at least one hot sauce company needs a character, like a Saturday Night Live type skit done of their product, rather than just a review. But yes, if you put them beside each other, I think for the most part it does to a certain extent. I just really realized that every time I ever did one, I always had the owner appreciate it and thought it was very hilarious and very funny. I guess for them as the hot sauce owner, they got to see a funny little skit done with their hot sauce. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's what I get out of it. As long as the hot sauce owners like it and approve of it, then good. Very good. It's just different than a normal, typical review.
Now, what do you think of the criticism that you've gotten stating, they say that virtually every product you review, you give an extremely positive rating to? What would you say to that?
You know, they're absolutely right. You know, there's a lot of reviewers out there right now that are being inspired by these videos of likes like myself, Ted Barris, and then they see these videos and then they want to do it. And then they want to contact a company and try and get free sauce. And then all of a sudden you got all these people that are wannabe reviewers and trying to be reviewers, sucking these companies of their product for the simple fact that they just want to make a video. Now, when you have a bunch of that happening and you have a bunch of that going on, you have a person like myself who has this long, nice run of actual good product. Now, of the criticism of me maybe giving higher ratings, I give credit where the credit is due. And if I actually like a product, I'll promote it naturally, because not only did the people put their time and money into getting me their product in hopes that I go to work for them, then that's what I do. I work. If you send me and take the time and money to do that, I'm going to work for you. And if I like your product, I'm going to promote it. But my long run of these good sauces, I just gave a dear friend of mine a bad rating who personally has my back. And I just recently released it. And it was a sauce by Puckerbine. Mm-hmm. And Ed Curry is a very good friend of mine. He has my back 100%. And it tore me up to make it to do a review where I rated him a 2 out of 5 on his cherry hot sauce. Now, that was me informing everybody and letting everybody know that no matter what you may feel of me and what you may think that I do, considering the fact that I may give people high ratings so I get free sauce, I wanted to show everybody that I give as an honest review as I possibly can in my own personal opinion as ever in my videos. Never have changed that, never had any intention of giving people high ratings because they give me free sauce. But there are people out there doing that. And, of course, you got me at the head of I suppose, of, I guess, being a little bit more known than others. And you fall into that, and it makes you look like that's what you do. My personal opinion, if the sauce is good, I'm going to give you the rating I feel you deserve. But I always have a lot of friends tell me that look out for me. They keep telling me, Brad, you gotta do a bad review. You gotta do a bad review. I'll do a darn bad review when I get a bad hot sauce. And I actually showed it. I actually proved. I finally came across a sauce that wasn't good. And it just happened to be a personal and dear friend of mine, and at least that was my way of showing everybody, you'll get a bad review when you get one, but I guess when you're also a hot sauce connoisseur, you enjoy hot sauces. A reviewer is a critic, and I'm not much more of a critic than I am a connoisseur.
Yeah.
Guess that's my own fingerprint.
Just personally, I think the more I got in the hot sauces, and I'm not saying, I have some golden tongue or anything like that, but it just, my taste developed, and I learned my own personal preferences and what I liked and what I didn't like.
Yes,
and I actually found myself liking less and less hot sauces. Well, let me correct myself. Not necessarily liking less and less, but just finding ones that were just more middle of the road. Just humdrum, really nothing unique or original to it. And so just over the years, I am always looking for the really spectacular sauces out there. And it seems like there's less and less. That having been said, there are some remarkable hot sauce manufacturers. I can name companies, all day long who I love, who are doing great work, who have unique and original flavor profiles, and thank God for them.
Oh, yeah. Yes, and I'm learning that too. Scott. You go through this natural progression with sauces, and you start being able to put them just kind of like you said it in your own words. You'll start finding out which ones are middle of the road and which ones are rise above the others. And I still personally think after a year of doing it, I still haven't done enough to truly figure out my scale. Everyone always says, Brad, why do you do 1 to 5? Why don't you do 1 to 10 or 1 to 20? And give us a better perception of how you're rating your sauces. Well, a 2 is terrible. If I give you a 2, it's terrible. If I give you a 3, it's decent. If I give you a 4, I'd buy it. And if I give you a 5, it's the bomb diggity. You know what I mean? And that's my, I put a lot of energy and passion into, I guess, more of the skip mode of it and the fun and the entertainment and the one take that I'm doing on this sauce, that if I keep it as basic and simple as that, that is basically how I taste a flavored, how I give a product its scale anyway. If it's decent, if it's terrible, if I buy it, and if it's the bomb, you know what I mean? And that's why I always use a scale from 1 to 5. But I always know that that's okay. I'll do what I do, because there's the other Joe over here that's doing 1 to 10 or 1 to 20, and there's reviewers all over the darn place. You know.
From the blog perspective of it, from the blog world, we had actually gotten together a few years ago and kind of standardized the rating system to where we all gave everything 1 to 5 ratings. So if you're looking at I Love It Spicy, you're looking at the Hot Zone Online, you're looking at Hot Sauce Weekly, you're looking at ScottRobertsWeb.com, you know, a 2.5 is pretty average, middle of the road. You know, to the 4 is very good. So you kind of know where we're all coming from. Do you think that maybe having a standardized rating system for video reviewers might be a good idea?
I think so. I think everybody breaks a product down differently, and reviewers are like hot sauce. They all have their own personal fingerprint, and that's what's good and great. A lot of people go, well, Brad, these are your competition. No, they're not my competition. Why would I even want to make it competition? These are all people that are coming together that have their own different scales and the way they do things. And I think for all of us, I think no matter, it's a good thing. I mean, everybody needs to have their own particular style and way of doing it.
And your particular style, of course, is coming from a very energetic, entertaining style. And you had talked a little while, I don't remember when it was, a while back about not necessarily being a reviewer anymore, but being more of an advertiser, someone who would do commercials for hot sauce companies.
Yeah.
Are you still wanting to kind of go with the concept of doing that?
My bigger picture and what I hope that comes of my journey with this is that I'm able to one day be able to do something big like that. I don't want to just be a reviewer. This is where I'm putting my work in. This is where I'm learning. This is where I'm getting better. This is where I'm figuring out everything. And, when you're going through your journey, you don't know what in the world you're doing. And you can't be an advertiser if you're a reviewer. You can't be an advertiser if you're a critic. You got to find what your niche is, and you got to do if you want to advertise, you got to go advertise. If you want to review, go review. And if you want to be the biggest critic in the world, but you can't blend them. And I think that's where a lot of people have gotten confused with me is I've done all three things. They all come together, and it can end up making you an uncredible person. But the advertising I want to do is kind of like, I hope one day that a hot sauce company, whoever it is, makes it big. And they remember Brad, and they want Brad to be on their actual commercials for their advertisement for their company. It's a dream. It's much bigger than just being a YouTuber or being a reviewer. It's a progression and it's a growth. And I'm hoping that wherever I'm at now is where I'm supposed to be. I feel that way. And where I'll end up being in the next year or two is where I was supposed to be in the first place. I know I'm in for it for the long haul, and I've enjoyed it. And I can't wait to see where it takes me.
Well, maybe the concept of, lack of a better term, a marketing firm, where you could help market companies. You could be an actor, so to speak, a spokesperson for spicy food companies, even barbecue companies. Do you think that might be a possibility?
I would love that. I always have these thoughts of having my own TV show, my own Chili Head, the Saturday Night Live for Fireheads. You know what I mean? It's humor, it's challenges, it's new products, it's new companies. It's just this big ball of chili love right in your faces, and there ain't none of that happening, Scott. I know we're a little community, and we are who we are, but there's chili heads all over the world, and it's the fastest growing industry. If this is the fastest growing industry, I would love a part of it. But if you ever ask anybody that I've ever did Deltons with, I've never asked for $1. When you love something and you have the passion for it, you're not in it for the money. And that's another thing. I recently monetized my videos on YouTube where I got darn commercials in front of them. That's not where I came from. The bigger, what I want to do is much bigger than YouTube stroking me a check.
Mm-hmm.
I think right now I'm still in the work stage, and I'm still in the learning stage, and the growing stage of who I will eventually end up, what I'll end up doing.
And when it comes to, let's switch gears here. When it comes to your favorite sauces and chili peppers and flavor profiles, what do you like to eat?
Well, my favorite, I have two top favorite sauces, but I'm really big into sweet heat. I love sweet heat. Anything that has fruit and then anything tropical. I love all the tropical sauces. There's a sauce out there called Steve's Cuisine. It was the 2010 Scovie first place winner, and it's a Puerto Rican hot sauce. And it's made of the recao leaf. Now, out of all the sauces I've ever done, I've never had or ever heard of the recao leaf. And it's almost kind of like a cilantro-type flavor. Being really big into Tex-Mex and growing up on these Mexican sauces, one of their biggest ingredients was, of course, cilantro. But this recao that is in this sauce, it's by Steve's Cuisine. It is one of my favorite top sauces out of all of them that I've ever done. And you should check that one out when you get a chance. And then, of course, I'm loving the smokiness in sauces. Tim Bader's Chocolate Lightning.
Oh, it's a very good sauce, yes.
One of my top favorites, too. I'd say number 2. But he just has that that smoke-type flavor to it.
Mm-hmm.
So more of the cilantro, recao leaf, and the smoke-type flavors in hot sauces. And also the sweet is the type of sauces that I actually love.
Now, what about chili peppers? You've eaten several chili peppers provided you by Jim Duffy at Refining Fire Chilies.
Absolutely, Mr. Jimmy. I love you if you hear this.
Well,
yes,
we'll make
Jim.
sure he gets the link.
Okay, cool. Now, but Jim actually enabled me to build my portfolio. I did 51 peppers with him last year, excuse me. And I'd have to say my favorite tasting pepper of all time did not come out of those 51 peppers. I really, truly feel the Carolina Reaper by Puckerbutt Mr. Ed Curry was the first actual super hot that tasted so good and so sweet. But the hottest that I ever had came from Jim Duffy, and that was of course, Red and Peach Jaysco Scorpion. So, flavor-wise, the Carolina Reaper is my number one favorite super hot, and the hottest that I've actually ever truly had was a Jaysco Scorpion.
Oh, very interesting. Any of the lower heat chili peppers that really kind of took notice of?
Absolutely. Jim turned me on to my favorite pepper in the world, though. It is the Pimiento de Padron. And, of course, in Spain, it's an appetizer in Spain, and it's served with cold, frosty beer. And it's an appetizer, and what you do is you take the Padron, the Pimiento de Padron, you cook it in olive oil, you dash it with sea salt, you add a shredding of a little bit of garlic, and you cook that baby, and you just take them off. And it is the best-tasting pepper, my favorite pepper of all time, is the Pimiento de Padron. They call them tapas in Spain.
Mm-hmm. Very nice, very nice.
Uh-huh. Very mild pepper. They also call it Spanish roulette because every now and then you'll get one that'll pop you right in the mouth.
Kind of like jalapenos, huh?
Yeah, just exactly right. You're right. Yeah, every now and then you'll get a jalapeno. They'll get you good.
Yeah. And I also wanted to talk to you about some of the charity bottles that you've been doing lately. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about those?
Well, I mean, that was a blessing all in itself. I'm a hobby grower. I'm a hot sauce collector, a hobby grower. I've learned a lot in this community and a lot of influences. But last year was my first year ever growing, and I had so many peppers that I didn't know what to do with them. And I contacted a hot sauce maker and said, look, it's Christmas is coming. I have these peppers. I want to see if you would collaborate with me on a hot sauce bottle and we can make it like a Pepper Garden of Love 2012 bottle. And let's do something good this Christmas. And what we did was, and I was very, very blessed to have my first people that did that with me, and that was Mr. Rev Tommy Tutone. Rev is a hobby hot sauce maker. He makes phenomenal sauces. I enjoy his sauces a lot. And he collaborated with me, and I sent him my peppers. And majority of the funds of that whole entire bottle went to 2 children that were dropped off at a friend's house whose mother was a drug addict, dropped them off at her friend's house, and the only thing the kids had were clothes on their back. That was it. And the mom disappeared. And here's this other lady who was a friend of hers just trying to make ends meet with her own child in her own life. And here are these 2 kids now without a family or a mom or anything. So that money went to provide those kids with new clothes, new toys, and to help that family get through that Christmas. And that was the first time I really felt the joy of growing for good. My buddy calls it, Mr. Brandon Drygrove, he called it sauces for causes. And I think that is part of my campaign now, is I grow my peppers to help people. And the feeling that I got out of that, Hellfire, I was very blessed that Hellfire collaborated with me on a bottle that went and provided people with Christmas presents that year too. Last year. Jake Seed out of California made an incredible bottle with me. Those proceeds went to a homeless shelter during the holidays. And my good old friend Tom at Voodoo Chili Sauces did a wonderful End of the World Reserve with me, and proceeds to that went to the Wounded Warrior Foundation. And this is where it all began. This is where the road began. And I have a hot sauce that's coming out with Evil Seed Company called the Nightmares from the Pepper Garden of Love. It's got the Texas Pepper Preacher on it with the Lucha mask, and proceeds to that are going to go to the Diabetes Association. So I've never felt the rush of doing something good for people before. I've never really truly given to charity until recently. And it became a part of me being a chili head. So
that's very cool.
I plan on doing that. It ain't going to stop. It's not going to stop. Why would I ever stop? And, you know, as long as there would be hot sauce companies wanting to make a traditional bottle with me every year to do good, then I'm going to do this for as long as I'm doing it. And people ask me, so what do you get out of it, Brad? What do you truly get out of that? Well, I don't get a dime. I don't. These hot sauce companies are putting their time, they're putting their effort into making a great bottle. They're in charge of everything. All I personally did was I get my name on a hot sauce bottle, which is wonderful. You know, I look at my hot sauce collection, I see 5 hot sauce bottles that have my name on it, and they're good sauces with great company. I do get exposure, but it's not even about that. People always want to ask you, so what are you truly getting out of it? Not a dime. Just the joy of it. If I help enough people get what they want, I will get what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And it ain't about me. It's not about me. It's about, you know, that goes with the advertisement again. I want to help people. Whatever my gift will be, it will be whatever I end up getting. But until my passion's out of wanting to help people, then that's the only reason I do it in the first place.
Very cool, very cool. And if people would want to purchase any of these charity bottles, where would they go to do so?
Okay, well, you got the Voodoo Chili Sauce. You go to voodoochilisauces.com. That is the Voodoo Chili Company. You got hellfirehotsauce.com, www.hellfirehotsauce.com. Rev Tommy Tutone, he's just a hobby maker. He don't have no website or anything like that, but all of y'all know Tom's also on Facebook. Y'all know where to contact him. And Jake Seed, you can find him on Facebook too as well. He doesn't have an actual website quite yet. But these are all great hot sauce companies. They're all great people. You have evilseedsauces.com. That's about to come out with the new bottle here March 25th. And I want to thank all of them. You know, I feel very blessed. I feel very honored. You know, you don't know where you're at. You don't know where you stand when you do what you do. You know, you just do what you do because you love to do it. And to be able to stare into my collector case and see 5 hot sauce bottles with my name on it, I have to step back and step myself out of the box and be like, you know what, Brad, these people were actually willing to collaborate with you. And it's the only level that I've personally ever had to gauge where I'm at in doing what I do. A lot of people call me a YouTube celebrity, and I'm like, what? No. You know, I hear all these crazy little fan comments every now and then, and I'm like, no, I can't believe they feel that way. Evidently, thank you for the respect, but I truly don't. You know, you do everything for a purpose and a reason, and sometimes you just want to know that what you're doing is good. If you don't ever have anybody to tell you where you're at least, it's always good to have those people that can at least tell you. There's just something I just want to do really big. I want to do good for this community. I want to be respected. There's a lot of things that I want, and they're all things that don't have to do with money. They're all things that don't have to do with material possessions. It's the gratification, I think, that's the word I'm searching for, of whatever this ends up leading to and wherever I end up being. I think I'm leaning more toward the gratification of something, and I don't know quite what it is yet.
Well, whatever it is, I wish you big success in the future. I will put up links in the show notes to the websites that you provided for everyone to go to. Hopefully they can purchase the bottles there. How could people find you on YouTube?
What you do is go to www.youtube.com/user/dbaptist. DBAPTIZT, D-Baptist. My channel name is Bishop Brad's Pepper TV, but it's YouTube user D-Baptist.
D-Baptist.
You'll find all my D-Baptist. Baptist with a Z instead of an S.
And that I will also put the link in the show notes for everybody going to one of the websites where that's located at. So everybody go there, to view his videos, so subscribe to Brad's channel and see what he has to offer.
Hey, somebody wants to say something to everybody, Scott. You ready?
Oh, more than ready.
Here we go.
Hey, everybody. It's the Pepper Lucha. Oh, yeah.
Pepper Lucha wanted to say hi to everybody. I got to keep him back in his cage.
Okay, you do that. Feed him a chew toy or something. Whatever he eats. Give him some peppers.
That's awesome. Scott, I want to thank you, brother. Thank you very, very much. I feel very blessed. I feel very honored that you were willing to take the time with me to do this interview with me, and I look forward to meeting you very, very soon personally, face to face, so I can give you a hug.
Yeah, a brotherly hug. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, hopefully it's some show probably this fall.
I hope so. I plan to get to the Houston one.
Well, Brad, I thank you very much. You provided a great perspective, and hopefully, critics and everyone, will see you in a new light, and, that you're just a good guy, trying to do things your own way.
Well, thank you, brother. Y'all have a good one.
Okay, you too. Thanks for talking. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Very, very cool. Big thanks to Brad Bishop for coming and talking with me for a few minutes. Be sure to visit the website addresses that he mentioned. There was voodoochilisauces.com, hellfirehotsauce.com, evilseedsauces.com. Those are the ones he mentioned he was working with. And there's also his official YouTube channel that I had mentioned right before the interview at youtube.com/user/dbaptist, spelled DBAPTIZT. And if you forget all those websites, just simply go to the show notes for episode 30 of the Weekly Firecast. And Ken Alexander's website is fieryworld.com. That's also in the show notes. Now, I also want to give a few plugs for myself. My own YouTube channel can be found at youtube.com/users/ScottRobertsWeb. If you're unfamiliar with my blog, ScottRobertsWeb.com, be sure to hop on over there right now as I record this in late April of 2013. I'm in the midst of the Ultimate Hot Sauce Challenge. And what that is, a couple months ago, is I asked many of you to nominate your favorite hot sauces to go head-to-head in a 64 bracket like a March Madness style tournament. And of course, the nomination period is over. I got hundreds of different nominations. So right now, I'm beginning the head-to-head matchups. So every couple days, I will post a new one up. One sauce will be pitted against another hot sauce. You could go on there and very easily vote for the one you think is the better sauce. Of course, those 64 will be whittled down to 32, then a Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final 4, and then finally the big championship. So that's going to be a lot of fun going into the next couple months doing that. And again, that's over at my blog at scottrobertsweb.com. And a few more plugs for myself. Be sure to like my Facebook page. That can be found at facebook.com/scottrobertsweb. You can follow me at Twitter at twitter.com/scottroberts. And if you look for me on other social networking, social media sites, I'm sure to be there. I'm on Google+. I'd already mentioned YouTube. So just do a search for Scott Roberts, and I'm sure you'll find me. I'm just about everywhere. So anyway, the very last segment of the show is where I mention everyone who has shared my link or retweeted the link to the latest weekly Firecast episode on Twitter or on Facebook. And in a nutshell, here's how it works. Whenever I post the link to the latest episode of the weekly Firecast on Facebook, if you share that link, or if I post a link to the latest episode of the weekly Firecast on Twitter, if you retweet that link, either one, I will mention you or your company's name in the very next episode. And as I always say, it's a very cool way of getting your name mentioned or your company's name mentioned. A little bit of free advertising to thousands of subscribers to the weekly Firecast. So, without further ado, here are the people who retweeted the link on Twitter. There was Zach Leaf, and his Twitter handle is @ZachLeaf. There was James Haskell. His Twitter handle is @JDHaskell. There was High River Sauces, and their Twitter handle is @HighRiverSauces. There's Jimmy Carbone, and his Twitter handle is @JimmyPotsAndPan. There was 5BurrowPickNYC, and their Twitter handle is 5BurrowPickNYC, just as the name suggests. There was Sean Mundell. His Twitter handle is @TGuzzler. Then there was Cookout NYC, and their Twitter handle is @CookoutNYC. There was Midwest Chili Heads, and a Twitter handle for that account is MWCHS. And then there was Nathan Corner, and his Twitter handle is @CheekyCayenne. And thank you all for sharing that link on Twitter and who shared it on Facebook. Of course, there's my good friend, Firehead Thomas Gately. There was Jim Duffy of RefiningFiredChilies.com. There was the High Octane Sauce Company, who also shared it on Facebook. Of course, there's Steve Seabury, who I happened to interview last week. His company is High River Sauces. Then there was Adam Furr of Endorphin Farms, a great co-packer based in Florida. And last but not least, there was Mike Eisenberg of WickedCactusSauce.com. Thanks to everybody for helping to spread the word. And remember, anytime I post a link on Facebook, Twitter, if you help share the love, you better believe I'm going to give you your props and mention you in the next episode. So, again, thanks. And thanks to everyone for listening to yet another episode of the Weekly Firecast. Number 30 is in the can. So until next time, God bless, and remember, keep it burning.
This has been the Weekly Firecast. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast via iTunes or at the official website at scottrobertsweb.com/weeklyfirecast. The Weekly Firecast is part of the Two Guys Talking podcast network. For more information on other great Two Guys Talking programming, you can go to twoguystalking.com. That's the number 2, guystalking.com. Thanks for listening. And remember, keep it burning.